good morning. I'm Hillary Loftus with the Help Our Wounded Foundation. I'm the Healthcare Education Director, and I'm sitting here today with Pat McNamara, the CEO of Palm Healthcare Foundation. We're very excited to have him here, and in honor and recognition of Brain Health Awareness Week, Pat and I are going to have a little conversation about what they do in support of brain health, which is very exciting. So, Pat, can you tell me something about what you at Palm Healthcare are doing these days with brain health?
Sure. So Palm Healthcare Foundation is one of two health conversion foundations in the county. We just recently adopted a new tagline. We're all about leading change for better health. One of our focus areas has been behavioral health for many years. I'm a clinical social worker by background, and when I came on board last year, looked at all the exciting good things happening in brain health, and decided to reframe the conversation in terms of mental health, behavioral health, and focus on brain health. And that was in part inspired by a neuroscientist named Dr. Jeremy Rickman. He, his daughter, unfortunately, was killed in the Sandy Hook tragedy. And so he created a foundation in her name called the IVL Foundation. And we heard him speak last year, and we are taking a page from his book, basically, where he's saying, as a neuroscientist, he thinks we need to be concentrating more on brain health as opposed to mental health, behavioral health. Those are more elusive, intangible, hard to wrap your arms around. And we are coming to understand so much more about the brain and how it operates.
Yeah, very exciting, very exciting focus. And how does brain health, affect your organization's focus? I know you're doing some things right now with Let's Move and Brain Health Fitness. How does that relate to what you were speaking about?
Sure, and we just launched a new Better Health campaign called Train the Brain.
Excellent. What does that involve?
So Train the Brain is, and our Better Health campaigns in general are all about, it's almost like a mix of a public service announcement and a call to action. We want to encourage everybody to understand that there are things that you can do no matter what age you are to take better care of your brain. And so it's putting the word out there, and we had folks take a pledge it has to do with nutrition, eating more fruits and vegetables, getting 7 hours of sleep, the different domains of the brain, and including the social relationships, the different things that any one of us can do. We wanted to shine a light on that. Second thing was to shine a light on what we can do for each other with regard to brain health, and that has more to do with the social relationships. And we've promoted something called Mental Health First Aid, which is an evidence-based program for teaching, educating any layperson about identifying and what to do in case of seeing the signs of a mental health emergency.
And what age range do you work with? Are we talking about children, seniors,
all ages,
families?
Yeah, we serve all of Palm Beach County, and we are committed to trying to help improve the health of all residents in Palm Beach County.
Great.
What's something that you've learned through your brain health initiatives that's kind of inspired you? I mean, other than the story of the doctor, unfortunately, what happened to him, but how he turned that into something positive. Yeah. But what's like a little nugget that is something that you never considered that you're like, wow, that's bad for my brain?
Yeah, I've learned a tremendous amount. Being a clinical social worker, I've got an orientation from that background. But the more I've gotten to know and read from neuroscientists and some of the discoveries that have been made, simple things like from a nutrition standpoint, I used to drink Diet Cokes all the time, and so that kind of thing, it's like that's really not good for your brain when it comes to the artificial sweeteners. Yeah, so little things like that to bigger things like just how hardwired we are in terms of the social relationship aspect, and the more I've learned about that and the protective factors in terms of good, consistent, quality relationships and how that actually impacts our brain structure over the lifespan.
You're talking about like community and friendships and family.
Yeah,
and
and things
importance
like
of
in early
that,
childhood,
reaching
there's
out.
been some really groundbreaking studies. You guys are familiar with the adverse childhood experiences work, but that's they've correlated directly the number of adverse childhood experiences that an early young child has with later adult morbidities and all kinds of different morbidities. And there is a lot of growing research showing that that has to do with the development of the brain in the early years and then how that manifests later on.
So you see it as a systemic change for Palm Beach County to be able to help people early on. It's like an early intervention. We always talk about that in psychology.
Absolutely, yeah. So we see it, you know, as we talk about the direct services and the more we know are really important, but they're not enough too. There is a systemic change in how we help to promote healthy social emotional development for kids, and the parents' role with that is really important from the early ages. And they're now connecting that to later lifespan issues in terms of development of dementia and Alzheimer's. So, you know, probably the biggest thing that has really clicked for me is we have tended to treat the brain as a separate part of our body, and the fact that it is so integrated and really helps to control our overall health has been a real revelation for me.
How many people have you had take the pledge, and what's your goal?
Yeah, so we January was from January to mid-February was the 30-day campaign, and our goal was to have 1,000 people take the pledge, and we've had about over 1,200.
Fabulous.
Yes, which is
Yay.
wonderful. And we also had a Train the Brain luncheon on January 19th. Since it was the first time out at the Kravis Center, we were hoping to have 200 people, and we had 350 people.
Fabulous. Yeah. And you had a
so-
neurologist speaking at that luncheon.
Yes, Dr. Jha from the University of Miami.
Great.
And we have assembled a really impressive group for our Brain Health Advisory Council. And so we're trying to shine a light on South Florida actually becoming, I think we have all the makings of becoming a hub for advancing brain health.
So what would you do to encourage people to take the next step in their brain health? Is this joining the pledge, or what can they look forward to with Palm Healthcare and learning about their brains? What's something in the boiler in the works?
Yeah, so we're just getting started with the brain health piece. Since the traction and the timing, we will continue with this. So things that anybody can do right now, I would say take the pledge and just begin to learn what you can do to take better care of your brain and the simple things.
Where do they go to learn more about the pledge?
So it is trainthebrainppc.org. There is a website, and while the campaign was for that 30-day period, we're continuing to have tremendous interest in it. And so we're keeping the website going, encouraging people to continue taking the pledge, and we're right now talking about how to have experts like yourself and the members of our Brain Health Advisory Council weigh in and on timely, relevant issues on that website. So.
Excellent.
Cool.
How about, you have a Let's Move campaign coming up, and that would be great for us to hear about to correlate with our, benefits of sports for young people.
Sure.
How does that relate to brain health?
Yeah, so it's one of these things that as focused as we are as a culture in terms of taking different medications and that sort of thing, all the different studies show that physical activity and physical fitness is one of the best things you can do for behavioral health conditions and for your brain in general. The benefits far outweigh the risks. And so we have operated a better health campaign called Let's Move over the past 5 years, and it has continued to gain in traction, and it's all about encouraging everybody in Palm Beach County to commit to 30 minutes of physical activity every day during the month of March. And it's developed into some healthy competitions and some fun and bragging rights between different cities. We have Wellington and Delray and Boynton and others all trying to beat each other in terms of the number of minutes that they log. Last year we had 100 teams and 7 million minutes logged.
Wow.
For the month of March, and this year we're looking to exceed that.
Excellent. And this is for all ages. I mean, kids in school, if you're playing sports, obviously you'd fulfill that half hour a day commitment, or any age, older people. It's
Any
good to get half an
age,
hour of
and folks
exercise.
can go on. It's free to register and log your
Nice.
minutes. It's letsmoveppc.org, and so get involved.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So another question that I was just going to ask is, you have your healthier initiatives for the different cities. Like you mentioned, I know Healthier Delray is another person. Lauren's going to come in and talk to us a little bit about
Oh, good.
Healthier Delray, but maybe
Yeah.
from, the perspective of Palm Healthcare Foundation, about why that kind of evolved into being those different initiatives in those, target cities would be really interesting.
Sure.
Also, if you could explain that.
Yeah, so it's going back about 4 years ago. The foundation made a pretty major change in terms of the creating this new initiative and the way that we were granting dollars. So we went from being more of a responsive grant maker to having a major initiative that would be community-based and an investment in 6 communities in Palm Beach County based on reams of data. And so we are investing $1 million in each of these 6 communities. The 2 that are furthest along that have been doing this longest are Healthier Delray Beach and Healthier Jupiter. We also think it's telling that 4 of the 6 communities have chosen to focus on behavioral health. They can each focus on one of our 3 focus areas, which are behavioral health, or brain health as we're now saying, diabetes, prevention and management, and family caregiving. And so it has been a really good learning experience to see what it takes to truly engage residents around getting to a better place with these population health issues, alongside health professionals and city officials and that sort of thing. And so, as an example of the kind of progress being made in Delray Beach here, Healthier Delray Beach was responsible for getting all of the Delray Beach Police Department trained in mental health first aid, which is wonderful. And they also advocated to have a behavioral health professional on staff at the police department, and that's now in play. And just a real groundswell of support and for trying to make Delray Beach an example for how to do brain health well. So. Yeah.
My other question is for you, like, what does it mean to you to be so involved with something around brain health, having a background in social work and also in psychology? And, how does it make you feel knowing that Palm Healthcare has made this shift?
It's tremendously rewarding for me. I share my own family background as part of the story, too. I'm one of 7 kids from Irish Catholic family in New Orleans.
One of 8.
One of 8. And 5 of this, we had a wonderful, yes, and he was actually 2 years ahead of me at Jesuit in New Orleans. But from our family, which, we were blessed with loving parents and had a good childhood, but we also had a storm of eating disorders, bipolar disorder, addiction, and depression, anxiety issues, taking its toll on 5 of the 7. And I lost my brother when I was 19, he was 21. And so I've had this lifelong interest in brain health. And so being able to make an impact on it is, it's one of my purposes in life. So the other thing I would just mention is last year, and we try to stay abreast of the research and what's out there, but in Scientific American there was a really interesting article. They did a meta-study of all the different studies in terms of, from an epidemiological viewpoint, how many of us experience a diagnosable mental illness in our lives. And what they found is it's much more common than we had believed, and it's over 80% of us. So it's almost all of us at some point in our lives will experience a diagnosable mental illness.
Very interesting.
And so breaking through the stigma and helping folks to focus on brain health and the fact that it's the sort of thing that we really should get over treating differently, in terms of this mind-body split. Let's talk about brain health, what we've come to understand, and how we can continue to advance brain health.
So any last thing you want to say to the camera, like, take the pledge.
Take the pledge, that's right. Go to trainthebrain.ppc.org and take the pledge.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Pat. It's very interesting and inspiring what you're doing, and we're very excited to partner with you on this for Brain Health Awareness Week.
Thank you for having me, Hillary.
Pleasure.